Hey, so it's this video has been a long time coming, I think, or at least a few weeks. Mike Moynihan over at Baseball Collector kind of asked that people put out their, 10 cards that they want to get before he didn't want to make it gruesome before they die, but before they stop collecting, whatever. And I struggled to do this for a variety of reasons. One is just because I don't know that, like, several people put out these videos and their cards are very high priced, and I don't I don't play in that arena. And so I was like, well, I don't want to make a list, and my list would be a bunch of cards. I don't think anything I've got a list. I don't think any of them. I think I'll be able to get all of them for less than $1,000, not combined, but I think that I'm hoping that I'll be able to pay. There's one on here that will be the highest price card that I'll it's the last one I'll mention, I think. And it's maybe a little bit pricier, and we'll kind of see, how that all goes. But the other reason is just I just didn't know, because my collecting. Those of you who follow my channel know that I'm working on a project that's a pretty big project for me. It's really a never-ending project, and so I'm going to say, well, there's two cards I need still, and that's true in the sense of, if I were able to complete it before the next Hall of Fame um, class got voted in, then it would be complete until then. It's really a live collection, and so it's never really finished. But there are two big cards I need for that, so I'll talk about those in a minute. And after that, so what am I doing after that? So there have been some cards that I've wanted to pick up, but because I'm working on this project, I can't pick up. Like, I'm budgeting for those, and these are cards that are a little bit bigger, and so they need to be budgeted for, and and so I just. But once I get those, like, there's just three or four of those, but I can feel my desire shifting a little bit, not completely. I love these cards. I love the tops and the Bowman and all of that stuff, and the kind of the post-war cards. I love all that stuff, and I'll always collect those. But there's been just kind of this desire to dip my toes into some of the pre-war, and so how am I going to do that? So I've been trying to wrestle over the last several weeks with kind of honing in. Okay, so how am I actually going to um, kind of dip my toes into the pre-war world? And so I'll talk about that when I get to that portion of the list. That's actually the last portion. So I've kind of broken this up into the first two are kind of the cards that, if you follow my channel, you'll know. The next few cards are cards that I don't know that I've talked about, but they're bigger cards in the hobby. They're cards that people talk about a lot, and that I love and love to see. Love it when people show them on their channels, and hope to someday show them on mine. And so I'll talk about. There's three on that list. There's two that I've never talked about, that don't come up very often. One of them did get shown by Picker Jim. Uh, oh, I don't know, a couple months back. And I commented on his video that I was looking for that card, and I'll talk about that when I get there. And then I'm going to go into that pre-war stuff, and I'll talk about that. So all of this kind of fits into some categories just for some cohesion in my own brain. I kind of like that. That helps me as I'm plowing forward in my collecting journey. So let's talk about that. I'm going to do my best to put the cards up here as I go. To my right, your left, as you're looking at the screen, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of catch a glimpse of the direction my collecting world is going. So the first two are obvious. If you follow my channel, they're obvious. One is I need the 53 top Satchel Paige, and I don't just need this. I want this card. Ever since I first saw this card, I fell in love. It's such a beautiful card, and you can see, and some of you have this card in your collection. There were one or two people who showed that they picked this up at, I think some picked this up at Strongsville last year, but others have picked it up at other places. And every time I see one, I'm like, yes, that's so cool that they got that card, and I cannot wait to get my copy of that card. So the 53 Satchel Paige is, of course, I need that for my Hall of Fame binder. And so when I say I need that, that's part of it for me, but also I really just want to have that card. I would want that card regardless of whether I was doing this project or not. It's just this gives me a nice excuse to go after it. And then the next one for my Hall of Fame binder, I'm down to the last two players that I need for it currently. The other one's Jackie Robinson. I'm looking at the 55 Topps Jackie Robinson. There are a few reasons for that one. One is just price. The 55 is, I think, the least expensive of his Topps cards to go after. So that's part of it, but also just as my binder is kind of unfolding and working itself out, the 55, putting it into the 55 slot makes sense. Honestly, if I found a 56 or a 53 for less, I could go that direction. But a 53, 52 and 53 Jackie Robinsons are just crazy. I don't have room for it in my 54s. I'm not taking the three cards I have in my 54 slot are not changing. I'm leaving those there. I love those three cards. So it's just a question of whether or not I would I can move some stuff around in my 56s, but enough about that. I want the 55 Topps Jackie Robinson sometime before I die, and sometime hopefully in the next year or so. Uh, so then there's some cards as I've been digging into these players, these Hall of Fame players and their cards, and they're just some cards that when I look at, I'm like, man, that is just it's such a beautiful card. The colors on these three cards that I'm going to talk about they're just fantastic. So let's start with the 51 Bowman Roy Campanella. The 51 Bowman Campy is such a gorgeous card, and there are, as I've been looking at different versions of this card, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if this is just a printing thing, which I know a lot of times it is for these older cards, but there's a color variation in the background, and some of them are darker and some of them are a little lighter. I will intentionally be going for one of the lighter ones. I think those tend to be a little bit higher priced, um, although they're not super expensive if you're willing to settle for kind of a lower grade. And on this card, and actually on all three of this card and the next two cards, I'm willing to deal with some rounded corners and some frayed edges, even light creases here and there, as long as the image is what I want it to be. And I'm looking for some color that pops, because these are beautiful cards, and I think when you're looking for that, the kind of the beauty in cards, I think the color is, for me, the color's very important. So I want the 51 Bowman Roy Campanella. I want the 53 Bowman color of Pee Wee Reese. This card, this is one of my favorite cards. I love it. I love when other people show theirs. I love it when other people, I love when I see them in shows. This has a lot of disparity in the color though. And so again, this is a card that I'm going to save and pay up for. I'm not willing to settle for one of the lesser cards in this one, in my opinion, are not the ones again with frayed edges. It's the ones with the color that doesn't just quite sing, like in some of those Bowman color Pee Wee Reese cards are just incredible. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for. I love the image. Shout out to John, 3D80s Kid. I know that's a favorite of his as well. But the 53 Bowman color Pee Wee Reese. And then the third card in this category is the 54 Red Heart Stan Musial. This is another one of those cards. Actually, I didn't know anything about this card. I don't think until I started watching YouTube channels. And the more I see it, the more I think, yes, I'd like to have that card. The red background with the Cardinals stuff going on here, of course, with him and the uniform and all of that. Like it's just an excellent looking card. I like the set, but there are some of those backgrounds that don't do quite justice to the same amount of justice that they do for Stan Musial. And that, because I looked for some others, like, well, maybe I'd like to get one of these other Red Hearts, and some of them are really nice cards, but it's the Stan Musial for me. I would love to have that card to add that to my collection. And again, it's the same thing as the last two. I don't care so much about the edges or the corners and some light creasing, as long as it's not across the face or whatever. But or even a little paper loss on the back, as long as the color pops. I want that red to be nice and red. And so, okay, so now a couple that are, they're, I don't know that I've talked about either one of these cards before. I know one of them I have not talked about, but I don't think I've talked about either one of them. One of them is a sneaky, pricey card, not super expensive, but more than I would have guessed, and it's the 1979 TCMA Ricky Henderson. It's from when he played for the Ogden A's. It's kind of a pre-rookie card. I don't have that card. I suppose when I was a kid, if I would have went looking for it, I probably could have found it for a lot less than what it goes for today. But it's kind of a, I mean, it's in the hundreds if you're going to buy a card of any decent shape. And um, I'm not a super collector of Ricky Henderson. I love his cards. I collect his cards, but I don't collect all of his cards. But I feel like that one is that's an important card. And if you've read his book, his biography about him talking about those years, I think they were important for him. And playing for Oakland and playing for the Ogden A's, that was an important time in his career as he was preparing to go into Major League Baseball. So I would really like that card. And the other one is the one that Picker Jim he got a few months back, and this one has been on my eBay search for months now. It has never come up, not once. I'm not. He must have gotten his. I think he said he got his off of eBay. He must have gotten it right before. So I've searched some other places and just not been able to find it. But it's the Caramello Deportiva Louis Tiant. This Louis Tiant Senior. If you know the story of Louis Tiant Jr., the kind of things he had to do, and someday I may do just a showcase. Cause I'm kind of slowly working on his tops run, uh, but I really want to do it after. I really would rather do it after I got this card at some point out, because his father's role in his career and in the way that he played, and they. They were separated for many years and came back together in 1975, I believe, was the first time he'd seen his dad in, I think, 11 years or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I did kind of some searching and some some history lessons of Louis Tiant, but just a fascinating. And so I'd love to get a card of his dad. There aren't many to be had. So his 1945 Caramello Deportiva is one of, I think, just two of his cards. It's a big set. It's an important set. It also has, of course, Martin Diego, and that's a great card. Also, that's a very pricey card. But I don't think I'll ever see my way into something like that. But if I could get the Louis Tiant, that would be exciting. I really don't even know what it sells for, so maybe it's a super expensive card that I'll never own. But if you were going to ask me what are the 10 cards you would want before you quit collecting or before you died, one of them that I think is definitely on the list is that Deportiva of Louis Tiant. So the final three cards are all pre-war, and I've struggled with how I'm going to do this. There are a few different on influencers on YouTube. They probably love that I call them that. Um, like Mancini and Aaron over at Valley Vintage, those two especially. But Jason, Everyday Card Collector, has been talking about these pre-war, especially the oversized stuff, a lot, and I've just been trying to wrestle with, okay, so how are you going to go about that? And there are a couple things that I would like to do. Is one, I'd like to pick up some cards if I can from some bigger players, but mostly what I'd like to do is just focus on my team. Like, if I could just get some Pirates, maybe some Hall of Famer Pirates, maybe not, but probably focus on those at least. I can dip into a bunch of different sets and just focus on a few different players from Pirates history, and hopefully, as I kind of dig into the pre-war stuff, what I'm wanting to do is kind of expand my collection by focusing on Pirates. I know Jason, Everyday Card Collector, he does that with the White Sox. I think that's just a cool way to do it, and it's an effective way of being able to kind of get into a lot of different sets without it costing an arm and a leg. I don't need the Joe DiMaggio's. I don't need the Babe Ruths, and I don't need all of those cards. If I can just get um, some Pirates and get some great images, and so even in there, I'll be a little picky. So my last three cards are all pre-war. One of them is not a Pirate. I went through all of that, and one of them is actually not But the first one is a really fun card. It's a really cool looking card. It's a National Chickle fine pen, and it features three players: Paul Wainer and his brother Lloyd Wainer, who are both Pirates in the Hall of Fame, and also Jim Weaver. It's a very fun card. Again, you can see the image here. It's a great image of a card. There's another card that has the same image, but it's sort of drawn in. It's not it's an artist rendition of this photo, and I would rather have the photo, and that's the National Chickle. And so that's number 8 on my list. I'd love to pick up this card. Uh, Number 9 is a Pie Trainer, a W517. I'm not sure if that has a name, like the National Chickle. That has a number and a designation as well. I'm not sure about the W517, but I think Aaron was showing some of these off in a video quite a while ago, and I looked at the Pie Trainer one of this set, and it's such a cool image. I really like it, him batting, and so it's just a great card of Trainer, and so another Pirate, another Hall of Famer. So I'd like to pick up that. The final card is probably a name I didn't think I'd ever get a playing day card of, and maybe this is just a dream that'll never be fulfilled. I don't know, but it is the Butterfinger Babe Ruth. I first saw this on Mangini's channel. He showed this Butterfinger Babe Ruth, and I thought, my goodness, that is such a great like. You can keep your Goudies. If I could have that one, like, and I know it's big and it's thin and a lot of issues with damage and edge damage and all that stuff. But man, I love that. I love it. I love the card. I love the picture. And so then I in one of Aaron's comment sections, I asked him, and he showed some of his, and he had the Butterfinger Babe Ruth as well. He had a bunch of different ones, and there are some great ones. There are some Pirates in those. I think Paul Wainer. I think Mangini showed Paul Wainer. Lloyd Wainer is one of them in his video as well. But the Babe Ruth really stuck with me. And this is probably, I think, it's the most expensive card on my list, and maybe the one I'm least likely to be able to pick up. I would be totally comfortable having one of these with some edge loss and all of that. And I just like the image and the idea of having a playing days Babe Ruth, the man, the myth, the legend sort of thing. That would be just fantastic for me. So that's my list. Mike, if you watch this, thank you for putting out this idea. Thank you for giving me emotional turmoil for weeks. I've really appreciated that. Just actually, one thing it has really helped me do is just kind of refine. And honestly, in a year, hopefully in a year this has changed, because hopefully in a year's time I've picked up one or two of these. But in a year's time, and as I dip into the pre-war, there might be other cards that I want more as I discover them, because I'm really in discovery mode at this point. These have just been some that I've seen that I've really liked the images. For one reason or another, they've just kind of caught my eye and caught my attention. So that's my 10. Hopefully I get everything worked out with the images up here. This is a lot more editing than I'm used to, but thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. A little bit long today for me, 18 minutes. It's a long video for Steve. So thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.